So we have our Bootstrap test file. Now what we want to do is create a test case class that can be extended by test classes which interact with a database. Okay, and so this is going to contain the setup and teardown methods where we'll establish our entity manager and actually load our schema.
Choose high definition for the best viewing experience, and if you'd like to join a growing group of software developers and take your skills to a new level, all you need to do is subscribe, click the little notification icon, and welcome.
I'm thinking before we actually do this, it might be best to take care of step 4 here, because if we're going to create a test case class which is going to be extended, then that's going to need to be found by the autoloader when we actually create classes which extend it. So what we'll actually do first is we'll go over to our composer.json file and create a autoload entry there which can be used for tests. Let's head over to our composer.json file, and in here we already have an autoload entry. The entry we're making here is going to be autoload dev because it's just going to be used in development for running our tests. So autoload dev, and again we're going with PSR4. Okay, and then it will be app, and then backslash, and then tests. Same again, colon. And then we're mapping to the tests folder. Okay, and so basically what we've done there is we've created a namespace mapping from app tests, which maps to our tests folder. And so all of our tests should now be discovered by autoloading. However, there's one more step. If you recall what we have to do every time we do this, when we update our autoloading, we have to do composer dump auto load and then -o, which is optimized mode. And I think that optimizes the files. I don't know totally what it does, but I always use it anyway. Okay, so all good there. We can now go and look at our next step, which is to create a test case class that can be extended by test classes which interact with the database. So we'll give this a nice descriptive name. Let's go over to our tests and see what we have in there so far. So we just have that one test. I'm going to create a new one, and we shall call this database dependent test case. Okay, because any tests which extend this will be database dependent tests, i.e. they'll be testing that records have been or checking that records have been created, updated, deleted or whatever from the database. Okay, that looks good. It's added the namespace for us, which I like, and this needs to extend PHP unit framework test case, so extends test case, and that's the one that we want. And so here what we're going to do is we're going to add a setup method and a teardown method. We'll just keep it simple for this recording. All we'll add at the moment is our entity manager, and we'll actually close the entity manager in the teardown, and then in the next recording we'll handle our schema loader, because that'll be a lot more complex than what we're doing here. So setup, so protected function setup, and then it calls parent setup first. And then what do we want to do? Well, first off we need to require our Bootstrap test file. Okay, and so I'm going to be running my tests from the project root, so it's okay to use this path here. And then we should now have an entity manager. So what I'm going to do is create a entity manager property. Okay, make a little bit of space here, I think, and we'll say this entity manager equals entity manager. And if we go to our Bootstrap test file, basically what we're looking at is this. So we're requiring this file, we're requiring Bootstrap test, which means we'll have an entity manager, and then we're going to use that to set an entity manager property in our setup method. And then for the teardown, all we're going to do is just remove our entity manager. So if I start typing teardown in PHP Storm, sorry if you're using something else, but I use a lot of the auto completion and stuff like that. So protected function teardown, and so similar, what we're going to do this time is actually close the entity manager, so we can say this Entity Manager close. Okay, I think we'll actually have some auto completion here which will help us. So I'm just going to say Entity Manager. Okay, and then when I try and do this again, I like to have that safety net of having auto completion so I know that I'm getting these methods correctly. And let's go and have a look what the close method does. Okay, closes the entity manager. All entities that are currently managed by this entity manager become detached, and the entity manager may no longer be used after it is closed. So that sounds perfect for us because that's exactly what we want to do. And then just to make sure, if I can find the right file, what we'll do is we'll say this entity manager equals null. Okay, and that should do the job. We'll no longer have an entity manager which is hanging over from between one test and the other, which could interfere with our data and our data handling. So I'm happy with this. We've made a nice start there. In the next one, what we're going to do is we're going to create a schema loader class, and that will be responsible for building up, reading the annotations in our entity classes and building up our schema before each test.
If you've enjoyed this video and you'd like YouTube to show you more of my content, all you need to do is subscribe and click the little notification icon. I release new recordings every few days. Details of my schedule can be found on the community tab of my YouTube channel homepage.